What's up, boys and boys pretending to be girls at the GE? It's your boy Namejamie, and in today's video, I want to talk to you about the best unlockable zone in the Trailblazer League. Now, before we get into the rest of the video, if you're watching this over on YouTube, I want to remind you to head down below and hit the subscribe button. Only 5% of my YouTube audience ends up subscribing to the channel, so if you're enjoying the content, it would mean a ton to me if you could just head down below and click the subscribe button. Also, while you're down there, make sure to check out the description where you can find my Discord link. By joining the Discord, you get access to me personally and all the other absolute units in the Discord, so if you want to come make some friends and overall be a part of the community, make sure to join that as well. And finally, right below that is the link to my Twitch, which is twitch.tv/Namejamie15. I stream every day, Monday through Sunday, 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern Central Time. So if you enjoy the content here and you want to pop over and say hi and come chill with the boys, make sure to click the link and drop a follow on my account so you can see when I'm live next. And with that all out the way, let's pop on over to the video. How did that guy get an Inferno cape already, and why did he go to the elf area? Okay, this is actually a great question, and so while we're just mining here and just doing some boring stuff, let's actually dive deep into this, the elf area, and why it ended up being so phenomenal, and how he got the Inferno cape with it, and why, in my opinion, it actually turns out to be the best area. So, to understand this whole debacle, let's first rewind a little bit and go over what people thought of the elf area prior going into League. Now, if you look at the elf area, Tirannwn, there are 3 pieces of major content in the zone. The first is Volcano, the second is the Gauntlet, and the third is Zulrah. Okay, so first let's go over Volcano. Volcano is the skilling boss there, and she has a bunch of supply drops for people who don't know that. Her supply drops are phenomenal, but the problem is that she really doesn't drop any good PVMing gear, if not really any PVMing gear except for the Onyx, I guess, suppose. And because of that, there isn't really much of a reason to go there, especially when you consider that XP in the Trailblazer League has been sped up so much. So getting supplies in the other zones, A, isn't that difficult, and B, getting that much supplies isn't really useful because a lot of it's going to go to waste, because getting 99 is just really not that difficult at 16 times multipliers. Now, with Volcano kind of pushed aside, it's just mediocre. You have the Gauntlet next. Now, the Gauntlet drops a few notable things. You have the Crystal Armor and Crystal Weapons, as well as the Blade of Seldor. Okay, so the Crystal Armor and Crystal Weapons are pretty mid-game pieces, but the problem with them is that they're A, not that easy to get, and B, they're really more or less comparable to a lot of the other mid-game gear that you can get in other zones, such as like Dragon Plate Skirts from the Wilderness, or like even Rune items or Void or something like that. So because they're nothing special, that just leaves us with the Blade of Seldor. But because a lot of people planned on going Mauritania as seen as sort of a must, the whip isn't really that much worse than the Blade of Seldor, and because the Blade of Seldor is semi-hard to get from the Corrupted Gauntlet, people sort of wrote that off as well, because it's a slight upgrade but a big time investment, more or less, and it's also like a pretty big RNG as compared to getting a whip from Abyssal Demons. So people just said, we're going to scrap the Gauntlet as well, and that just leaves us with Zulrah. Now, Zulrah gives you an Onyx, which was, again, pretty good, but you can get that on Karamja from the shops in a pretty easy way, so nothing super special there. You can get the Magic Fang there, but that would require you to get the Staff of the Dead, and really, the Toxic Staff, or whatever the upgraded version's called, doesn't really have that many uses probably around the game, so nothing special as well there. You also have the Serpentine Visage, which makes the helmet. Again, that's pretty good, but most people, again, didn't want to just spec into the zone for the Serpentine Helm. It's not that good. And finally, you had the last and arguably the best piece of content there, and that is the Blowpipe, right? That's what the elf area is known for, is the Blowpipe. Probably the only reason you would spec into the zone. Now, prior to the League, a lot of people had this misconception that in order to use the Blowpipe effectively, you had to spec into the desert. Because in the desert, you gain access to the Taurus Trap. And the Taurus Trap is what actually enables you to fletch darts. Otherwise, you can't make darts really en masse in the game without completing the Taurus Trap. And the desert arguably correctly was predicted to be perhaps one of the worst zones out there. You would put it along there with like Fremnik and maybe the Wilderness as the worst according to most people. Now, personally, I think the Fremnik and the Wilderness have their own unique things that put them far above the Desert, but the Desert, I would argue, is honestly pretty bad. Unless you're building a very specific count that needs Ancients, the tasks there suck, and Ancients aren't really that important or that good, so overall, I think the Desert on a whole sucks. And because the Desert sucks so bad, it wasn't thought that it was going to be worth it to spec into the Elf area because you had to spec into the Desert as well. So given that, people didn't think that this zone was going to be good at all. Now, what did he perhaps realize that other people not have realized is, let's go into the relics here, okay? And I want to specifically highlight the tier 3 relics, okay, for people who don't know. These are going to be your combat relics. And one thing we saw emerging from a lot of other people is everyone's going Fluid Strikes, okay? Fluid Strikes basically allows your weapon to attack twice as fast, so with Dragon Scimitars and a Whip, this is very fast. You have 25% increased accuracy, 15% less damage coming in from all sources, and 4 times hit point regeneration. Very, very good, right? But one thing a lot of people slept on that the guy who got the Furno Cape didn't, and a lot of other people, is the Quick Shot Relic, okay? So the Quick Shot Relic is very similar. It allows your weapons to attack twice as fast. So the Blowpipe, which already has some of the fastest attack speed in the game, now attacks at the speed, I believe, of throwing knives, which is crazy, crazy, crazy fast. That's on top of a 100% increase in accuracy against monsters, which is ridiculous, a 10% increase on damage, and here is the key part, the most pivotal part of this whole thing. When you use your ammunition when firing a ranged weapon, you save 90% of it. This doesn't include Chinchampas, but does include crystal bows and toxic blowpipe charges. Now again, remember when we talked about just a few seconds ago that the big downfall of the elf area and getting the blowpipe was that you had to take the desert. Well, not a lot of people knew this, but from crystal implinks, at a 1 in 18% chance, you can actually get rune darts from 50 to, I believe, 100 quantities. Now, traditionally, without like an Ava's Assembler, which would require you to go to Fremnik, you're probably going to lose these darts at a 1-to-1 ratio, meaning like literally a single shot against a monster, 1,000 darts total would be 1,000 shots, which is not very many, especially when you're attacking at the rate of throwing knives, okay? So this didn't really seem viable. But with the implementation of this relic, the 1,000 darts now with the blowpipe now last you, gosh, out of 90% for your thing, so it's got to be like, what, 4,000 or 5,000 shots, depending on how the regression plays out. That's a crazy amount of ammunition, because 1,000 rune darts is very gatherable when you're hunting crystal implinks, and you're gonna save so many more than you get. So 1,000 really could carry you through the game. Now, not only is this amazing, but it turns out that because Fluid Shots is so good and the blowpipe attacks so fast, you actually end up getting the best PVMing account in the entire game. Because I'm pretty sure we talked about this in chat. I'm not sure if the mass entirely settled on this, but I'm pretty sure with Quick Shot and the last damage buff from Relic 6, which I'm not even sure you need, but if you factor in as well, you do more damage with the blowpipe and decent ranging gear than you do with a scythe and fluid strikes. Then you do with the Inquisitor Mace and fluid strikes, than you do with a whip or any melee weapon and fluid strikes. With the blowpipe and quick shot and some decent ranging gear, you will do more damage than every other person in the game. So you took this area that essentially required you to spec into another zone, and now you completely negated that. You also took the weapon that was supposed to be decent and turned it into the best PVMing weapon in the game, which is very, very, very huge, okay? That is probably why this zone is going to shape up to be the best zone in my opinion. But that's not the end of it, okay? It doesn't end there. As we saw with the guy who got the first Inferno Cape, I believe his name's like Mole Kirby or something like that, what he did is he took the Crystal Bow from doing the Gauntlet, which is super important because that's also part of a lot of the tasks, but let's forget about that for a second. The Crystal Bow, again, saves its ammunition, so it's a very great weapon to have in range, but additionally, we saw with the Quick Shot perk, it actually ended up being a phenomenal weapon, good enough to take down Inferno. And this is important because the crystal weapons were seen to be a mid-game piece that weren't really going to carry you into that end game. But it turns out with Quickshot, the crystal bow is strong enough to take on Zara. It's strong enough to take on really a majority of the PvMing content you would need to get into the late game. So now the elf area has 3 things going for it. It's a standalone zone that you don't need anything else to take, okay? Because you don't have to take the desert. It provides you with phenomenal mid-game weapons to carry you into the late game, very important. And 3, in the late game, it provides you with the best weapon for PvMing in the entire game. And because this league is so PvMing focused, for those of you who don't know, you can't skill your way to Dragon tier in this league. Because that's the case, becoming the absolute strongest DPS monster in the game is so crucial, okay, for this league. So that's really the history of what's going on in this zone. And you will say, okay, so I understand. So it has great PvMing components to the zone, but what about everything else? Because as you guys will know, League isn't just about doing a ton of damage. It's about the task. And this is where this zone especially shines, okay? Because one thing we talked about in the last video, for those of you who didn't watch it, it's very important, I would suggest you go watch it, is that something important about a lot of the zones that Mauritania, I think, has as a downfall, and a lot of people didn't realize this, is that just because you're getting a zone with great PvMing content doesn't mean you're getting easy points to gather. And one of the most important things in League is to get not only the best gear, but also get the most amount of points you possibly can, which requires easy tasks to do in some metric, right? So doing, like, I don't know what the task list is for Mauritania, but I assume it has X amount of TOB, X amount of nightmare kills in there, or something along those lines, right? Well, neither of those bosses are very easy to do. But when we go ahead and pop over here, let's switch this metric to viewing. When we pop over and look at the elf area's task list, let's avoid these first 2 sections in a second, because we'll come back to them. Let's scroll all the way down to the hard section, okay? Because this is where the real big points are. This is where you're gonna wanna look for easy tasks, and not only easy tasks, but tasks that you're going to have to do anyways, and tasks that combine together to give you combo points, okay? So what I mean by that is, let's take an example here. The first thing we were talking about is getting the crystal armor for the mid game, okay? Well, perfect, that's a task. So something we were already gonna do is 100 points for us, great. Well, in order to get those, we talked about doing the corrupted gauntlet. That's what we talked about, or just doing the regular gauntlet. Perfect, that's another task. So just by doing the things we were gonna go do anyways, we've already got knocked out 200 points, phenomenal, okay? Defeat Volcano, very easy task, it doesn't require a lot. So now we have another combo piece for something you're probably gonna do for supplies. 300 points so far. Defeat Zara. We talked about getting the blowpipe. That was an essential part of our plan around building the strongest PvM account, right? So again, another point. We have 500 points so far, and we're just doing things we were gonna do anyways in this zone to gear up our account, okay? Defeat Zara in 1:30. Now, this might seem like a quick kill, but trust me, with Quickshot and even a crystal bow, getting a minute kill is nothing special. Yesterday on stream, I was watching MMO and Kirby, the guy who got the Inferno cape, with the blowpipe and without the blowpipe, and their kills were either 30 seconds to below a minute. With the when you had the crystal bow, it was usually around a minute or slightly less, and when you add in the blowpipe, you can get kills as fast as like below 30 seconds. So doing this task, again, super easy and part of something we were gonna do. So now we're at 600 points, completing the gauntlet in a certain amount of time. Again, Quickshot is pivotal in completing the gauntlet in fast times because you can do the 5-to-1 method where all you do is range, and because the bow is the best weapon in the gauntlet, this is super easy as well. So now we're at 700 points, I believe is what I've counted so far, or maybe 800. Equip a crystal bow, again, task we were already talking about doing. 900 crystal shield, 1,000 halberd, all the same thing. We have 1,000 points, give or take, in the hard diary that just encompass tasks we were already gonna do. Phenomenal. But how does this carry over to the elite to give us those combos points, right? This is something we were talking about. And this is where this zone shines even more so than perhaps the wilderness, which is the zone that also has this this sort of mechanic. And it's one of the reasons I ranked the wilderness so high in my last video. Okay, but let's scroll down here. Complete the corrupted gauntlet. Perfect. We already talked about doing all these things, doing the Corrupted Gauntlet to get the armor pieces, doing Zulrah. So all these things, more and more points, 250 points, beautiful. Obtain a Crystal Tool Seed. You might or might not do that from Volcano, hard to say, so we'll just discount it. Equip the full Crystal Armor set. Well, we talked about getting all the pieces, so this isn't that far of a stretch. Boom, another 250 points. We're at 500 points. Equip a Serpentine Helm. We talked about grinding Zulrah at a 3-time drop modifier rate for the blowpipe. Perfect, we'll probably get this. We'll probably get the blowpipe. So now we're at 1,000 points, right? Or yes, we're at 1,000 points. Equip the Toxic Trident. You might not do this one, so we'll discount it. But we're still at 1,000 points. Defeat Zulrah in less than a minute. Again, with the Crystal Bow and Quickshot. This is a task we're doing anyways. 1,250 points so far. Complete the Gauntlet in 5 minutes. Complete the Corrupted Gauntlet in 8 minutes and 30. Complete the Corrupted Gauntlet in 7 minutes. Complete the Corrupted Gauntlet 100 times. Complete the Corrupted Gauntlet 250 times. All 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these tasks are things that we're going to be doing anyways. Either A, because we want the Blade of Seldor, B, because we're grinding out the Crystal Armor and Weapon Seeds, or B, just because the Corrupted Gauntlet drops phenomenal coins, which you can use in other zones, which are super important. GP generation on Iron Man is phenomenal, and this zone does it well. It also has a ton of alchables. So overall, this is something we'll probably be doing as well. And right here between these 500 points, we have another 1,250 points, which we're going to add to the 1,250 points we've already gotten so far. So I think between the things we've counted out so far, we're at 2,500 points between just the task we were going to do anyways in this area while grinding out this monster of an account. So as you can see, phenomenal, phenomenal, phenomenal. Volcano. 250 or 500 times. Again, we'll scratch this like you're not even going to do it. I mean, you could in theory do it. It'd be very easy, but we'll scratch it out like you're not going to do it. Defeat Zulrah 250, 500 times. Well, again, we talked about doing Zulrah for the blowpipe. So boom, boom, both these tasks, another 500 points. We're looking at 3,000 points. I remember if I think I did the math correctly in the elite zone, and around 900 to 1,000 in the hard. So just between the elite and the hard, we have what is that? 4,000 points or something like that. Now we're going to go down to the masters, okay? Because this is important. This is where high concentration of points are. These are each worth 500 points. So having these line up with your elite and hard task is pivotal for collecting points. And what does this zone do well, if we've seen thus far, is the combo points. Let's look at it. Equip the Corrupted Blade of Seldor. Well, again, we talked about doing the Corrupted Gauntlet 250 times. We talked about getting the Crystal Weapon Seeds and the Crystal Armors. This is not that hard of a sell. This is a 1 in 133 drop rate from when you have the drop rate modifiers. We're going to be doing the Corrupted Gauntlet 250 times. It's not that unlikely or not that unfeasible, I suppose, or it's not that like unrealistic to assume you will have gotten the Corrupted Gauntlet by the time you complete this task. So boom, another 500 points we're adding on. We're at 4,500 points so far. Defeat Zulrah in 42 seconds. Again, we already showed, we've seen on stream and we've already talked about it here, so I've showed you. Using the blowpipe once you acquire it at Zulrah will get you 30-second kills. No doubt it will. So this is, again, another point that we're just on the route to doing what we were going to do on this account anyways to build the strongest account, and we're at 5,000 points in this zone. Complete the Corrupted Gauntlet in 5 minutes. This might seem daunting, but trust me, with Quickshot doing the 5-to-1 method and the increased modifier from the last relic as well, but even without it, if you need it, go to the last relic for the increased damage buff and HP restoration and prayer restoration. But if you don't need it, even with Relic 3, this is very, very doable after a little training, and you're going to get that training in those 250 kills, believe me. So this, again, another task we're going to be doing anyways. So all in all, we're looking at 5,500 points, give or take, or something like that, in this league list that was all going to be acquired anyways. So to summarize, this zone is unbelievably phenomenal because, one, it builds out the best account possible, and that's something we saw from the guy who got the Inferno Cape. Even without using the blowpipe, going the quick shot route with the Crystal Bow, which is supposed to be a mid-game weapon, carried him enough to get the Inferno Cape. Phenomenal, okay? 2, it has a great concentration of endgame points that are all easy to get, okay? Because they're going to be stuff that we're doing anyways to build out our phenomenal account. And that's the third point, which is that by going this route in these relics, you will be an absolute monster. And this carries into the fourth point, which is something we've yet to talk about, and that is the zone synergy, okay? One thing we talked about at the beginning was that you now voided the reason to take the desert because you're able to generate rune darts, which are better than adamant darts, which I think a majority of people use in the main game due to their cost. You're going to have rune darts in your blowpipe, which is going to allow you to tear through every other zone in the game. And again, because as I was saying, we don't have to take the desert anymore. You now have an amazing PVM weapon that's going to allow you synergy with literally any other zone you want to take. You want to take Fremnik in the wilderness, it's achievable with the elf area. You want to take Kandarin as Garnia, it's achievable with the elf area. If you're like one of the people on the last video who commented down below, I'm still taking Moritini, it's the best zone. Fine, fit the elf area in. You'll be even that much better in TOB, okay? This zone, because of its own synergy, because of the rune darts, which you now can get instead of taking the desert area, now is a standalone zone that will produce one of the strongest PVMing accounts, which can allow you to take paths and spread into any other zone and absolutely decimate wherever you go. And that's really, really one of the standout strengths of any zone that you can ask for, which is great zone synergy and amazing concentration of endgame points, as well as the cherry on top of producing an absolute PVMing monster. And that for that reason alone, the zone has to be the best out of any zone that possibly has been produced so far in League, just in my opinion. But this isn't to say, though, that this zone doesn't have any negatives, okay? Because one thing that I don't want to do in these videos is hype up these zones for new players, for people who are watching this, who want to get into League, and not talk about these zones like they don't have downfalls. There is one pivotal downfall to this zone, which I think we can actually go over the task list, and I meant to talk about. That's why we skipped this. Here, let me pop this back up over here. And that is the easy and medium list. Okay, so one thing we talked about is that the guy who even got the Inferno Cape, quote me if I'm wrong, I'm not exactly sure, I haven't followed his content to the T, but I believe even he chose the desert before choosing the elf area, or maybe he picked up both. But the elf area's easy and medium list isn't that easy to complete, okay? And in this league, okay, the ramp, the exponential ramp that you can occur of a power spike can look like this, okay? It can go right up. If you pick a zone like Kandarin or Azagarnia that has a lot of easy or medium tasks that are easy to complete, you're gonna unlock the next zone at a much faster rate. And having two zones allows your power spike to go like this, right up. Okay, if you were to choose the elf area early, your ramp would look more like this. Okay, you would scale really hard at the end, like a flat line. You're basically going right up like a spaceship. But the ramp to get there might be really slow, because if you struggle to complete these easy tasks, you're going to struggle to get enough task completion to unlock another zone. And that's just going to slow down your progress. So one thing I do suggest about these people who look to take this area and become some of the strongest accounts, if not hands down the strongest accounts in the league, is that pick another area before this. Pick a zone, again, because we've talked about the synergy with this zone and every other zone's amazing. But pick another zone before this one. Make this zone your second choice, because if it is your second choice, you'll have already knocked out the mid-game stuff in the other zone, and you'll come in at the perfect time to get the gauntlet done and get those crystal weapon, or get that crystal bow and stuff and whatnot. And because of that, you'll avoid the early game, which is the completely worst part, and you'll pick into the best zone in the game and just scale your account like an absolute monster. And I think that's one thing we're going to see as you go on further. I think we talked about slightly MMO, RPG, the streamer, or the YouTuber, I'm sure some of you guys know. I'm pretty sure he picked this zone and his account's shaping up to be a monster. The guy who got the Inferno Cape picked this zone and shaping up to a monster. And I'm sure a plethora of other streamers you guys probably watch have picked this zone are shaping up to be absolute monsters of accounts. And I'm pretty sure we'll see the people who finished in Dragon tier, a lot of them who put in time, pick this zone, because I don't see how you pick this zone, become so strong in PVM, and don't finish in Dragon tier. It just doesn't seem possible, to be honest, because you can pick any other zone, take the gear you've gotten from here, and just decimate it and destroy it. And because of that, points everywhere else after this zone will be too easy, and you'll finish in the Dragon tier. So if this seems like something you want, if you want to finish in the Dragon tier and you have the time to put in, I highly suggest picking the Elf Zone. I think hands down, it just turned out to be the best zone in the game, and I hope you agree with my reasoning. But if you don't, let me know down in the comments below if you're watching this on YouTube. And thanks for the question, and I'll see you guys in the next video, right? Stay safe, and peace! I do it for the